Hi guys, so good morning. Today we will be continuing our discussion about traffic engineering studies. Previously we've discussed about the volume study and the speed study. So today we will be discussing about the travel time and delay studies and the parking studies. Okay, so if once we finish discussing yung traffic engineering studies, we can now link yung current volume to different needs in our highway. Okay, from the possible obstructions to the possible parkings, sa travel time, sa volume, sa speed, no, we can all incorporate it in order for us to develop a more efficient roadway system. Okay, so first let's discuss about travel time and delay studies. So a travel time study determines the amount of time required to travel from one point to another on a given route. So nasan yan? If this is your highway, okay, if this is your highway and you are traveling somewhere in this direction, okay, so from this point, let's say point A, your destination is here, point B, okay, so for the amount of time that you need to travel from point A to point B, no, yun yung travel time natin. Data obtained from this study give a good indication of the level of service on the study section. This data also aid the traffic engineer in identifying problem locations which may require special attention in order to improve the overall flow of traffic on the road. Okay? So, bakit mahalaga yun? Okay? So, yung problem locations when we are discussing about travel time and delay studies, we can also call that as choke point. No? In the professional field, that is what usually is said dun sa mga area na pinagmumulan ng traffic. So let's say we have an intersection. Okay? Let's say we have an intersection here. And ganyan. So let's say itong area na to is highly commercial. Nandiyan yung mga mall, nandiyan yung different establishments na pinupuntahan ng mga tao. So, ang tendency ng traffic dyan is dito magmumula yung traffic and magbe-build up dyan. Okay? Magbe-build up. So, ano nagiging cause niyan pag nagbe-build up yung congestion? Pag nagbe-build up yung congestion, of course, in terms of travel time and delay, made-delay talaga yung dating ng mga sasakyan dyan. Okay? Babagal yung, hahaba yung travel time. And in result, okay, magkakameron tayo ng different delays. Okay, so travel time and delay studies helps traffic engineer in determining kung alin yung mga location na possible maging choke point ng isang flow of traffic. Okay? The data obtained from travel time and delay studies may be used to determine determination of the efficiency of a route with respect to its ability to carry traffic. So this could be connected to the level of service of the road. We will be discussing level of service later on in the semester. Identification of locations with relatively high delays and the cost for those delays, as discussed earlier. Performance of before and after studies to evaluate the effectiveness of traffic operation improvements. Next is determination of relative efficiency of a route by developing sufficiency rating or congestion indices. Okay? So, itong congestion indices, pwede mo yung gawin na parang isang mapa. Okay? So, kunwari, meron kong ganyang road system. Okay? So, from 8 a.m., sabihin natin from 8 a.m., 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., okay? At ito yung highly residential areas. Ito yung highly commercial. So, anong tendency ng mga tao dyan? So, ang tendency ng mga tao is from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., yung mga taong nasa residential area is pupunta sa commercial area para magtrabaho. Okay? So, asahan mo if you are using congestion indices, okay? Normally, iba-ibang color yon regarding sa level of congestion sa area. So, possible na itong area na to, itong malapit sa commercial is highly red yan. Okay? Then, habang pumupunta ka dito sa residential, nawawalan ka na ng congestion. Bakit? Kasi lahat ng tao dito pumupunta. So, ang build-up ng congestion mo is dito lang sa commercial spaces na to, dito sa commercial area na to. However, pagdating naman ng 5 p.m. to 6 p.m., okay, so ano naman ang tendency ng travel mo? Ang tendency naman ng travel mo or ng end users mo is from commercial, uuwi na sila sa residential area, pupunta na sila sa mga bahay nila. So, yung congestion indices mo, magbabago din yan. Okay? Magiging ito naman yung red part mo, meaning ito yung pinaka-congested up to the point na dito sa commercial area na to, halos wala ka ng color kasi wala ka ng congestion. Lahat ng build-up ng congestion mo is nado na sa may residential area. Okay? Determination of travel times and specific links for use in trip assignment models. So itong trip assignment models, you will be encountering this on your transportation planning subject siguro next year after your on your 4th year. Okay? Compilation of travel time data that may be used in trend studies to evaluate the changes in efficiency and level of service with time. And lastly, performance of economic studies in the evaluation of traffic operation alternatives that reduces travel time. Of course, no? Possible, no? Kung sobrang congested to, let's say, itong road section ulit natin na to, or itong road system na to, possible na sobrang red yan all throughout. Okay? Depending on the time, possible yan. So, ang isa sa pinakamagandang ginagawa or isa sa normal solution is to create an alternate route. Okay? Pag mayroong alternate route, okay, mayroong ibang pwedeng daanan tong mga to, tong mga sasakyan from the residential area or from the commercial area. So, pag nagawa ka ng alternate route, of course, magkakameron ka ng capital dyan or losses in terms of money. Okay? In terms of economics. Ngayon, you have to determine kung yung maiis ng traffic na to or maiitulong ng alternate route na to in lessening the delays and the travel time from this area to this area is substantial or magkakameron ba ng gain yung area na yon. Okay? If hindi siya magkaka-gain, kung walang economic advantages, then of course there is no use in creating an alternative route from this area to another area. Pero most of the time, once you propose an alternative route, of course, pag-iisipan naman yan eh. Magkakameron yan ng economic benefits para sa area na yan. Kasi, when we are talking about transportation, time is money. Okay? In Metro Manila, in the NCR, because of the different delays and the very long travel time, the NCR in general is losing a very big money. I think it's near 1 trillion or hundreds of billions because of delays. So alternate routes are actually very important. Pero bakit hindi ba yung ginagawa sa NCR? That is because sobrang hirap ng hanapan ng possible alternate route ang NCR. So one possible solution is to make our public transportation better. Okay? Sa pagganda ng public transportation, sa pag-unti ng tao na gagamit ng private cars, so meaning uunti yung volume and mawawala yung too much cars sa kalsada, and in result, uunti ang congestion natin. Okay? Pero those when we talk about those kinds of proposal, it is hindi na yan kayang sagutin lahat ng traffic engineering studies. Okay? Marami ng elements of transportation planning and traffic engineering ang kailangan mong i-consider. Okay? But if you want to propose, yung traffic engineering studies ang start. Okay? So some definition of terms that is related to travel time and delay studies. First is the travel time. It is the time taken by a vehicle to traverse a given section of a highway. So that is in general lang, ano? We are not talking about any obstruction muna. That is the total travel time. Okay? Next is the running time. It is the time a vehicle is actually in motion while traversing a given section of a highway. So yung running time mo is yung time lang na pagta-travel mo where your vehicle is actually moving. Okay? When it is not moving, then stop yung time. Once na umandar ka ulit, then the time continues. Okay? Delay. Next is the delay. It is the time lost by a vehicle due to causes beyond the control of the driver. Yan yung mga obstructions natin. Okay? Pero, yung delay has other kinds pa. Iba pa yung kind niya. First is the operational delay. It is the part of the delay caused by the impedance of other traffic. Then stop time delay is the delay that is part of the delay during which the vehicle is at rest. Next is the fixed delay. It is the part of the delay caused by control devices such as traffic signals. And the travel time delay is the difference between the actual travel time, the travel time that will be obtained by assuming that the vehicle traverses the study section at an average speed equal to that for an uncongested traffic flow on the section being studied. Okay? So, we have two methods in conducting travel time and delay studies. First is the methods that requires a test vehicles and the methods not requiring a test vehicle. For this module and for our discussion, we would be focusing more on the moving vehicle technique. Okay, so other methods that requires test vehicle is the floating car and the average speed. Okay, well, those methods naman not requiring a test vehicles are the license plate observation, interviews, and the ITS advanced technologies. Okay, when we talk about interviews, this is magsasurvey ka dyan. Okay, mayroon ka questionnaire na papasagutan sa mga end users mo. Okay, so we would be focusing on the moving vehicle technique. Okay, so what is the moving vehicle technique? The moving vehicle technique, in this technique, the observer makes a round trip on a test section like the one shown in the figure. Ito yung figure na yan. Where it is assumed that the road runs east to west. Okay? The observer starts collecting the relevant data at section XX, drives the car eastward towards section YY, then turns the vehicle around and drives eastward to section XX again. So, in simpler terms, no, dito ka sa XX mag-start. Okay? Mag-start ka ng mag-gather ng needed data mo or yung mga important data mo while you are driving the car towards section YY. Okay? Pag nakarating ka sa YY, hindi pa yan yung endpoint mo. You also have to consider going westward. Okay? So, iikot ka dyan. Then, from this point, magdadrive ka papuntang west to section XX. And again, you would have to gather the needed data in order for you to analyze travel time and delay. Okay, so there are two parts of data gathering. First is from XX to YY, and the next is from YY to XX. Okay, so these are the following data you need to collect during the trip. Okay, first is the time it takes to travel east from XX to YY. Okay, XX to YY, so that is our PE. The time it takes to travel from YY to XX, that's TW. The number of vehicles traveling west in the opposite lane while the test car is traveling east, that is NE. Okay, so the number of vehicles traveling west in the opposite lane. Okay, while you are traveling east, okay, papunta kang east, tapos bibilangin mo yung mga sasakyan na dito sa west, yung gumagamit ng westward, so ang tawag doon is NE. Okay, then the number of vehicles that overtake the test car while it is traveling west from YY to XX, that is OW. Okay, then of course you also have OE here. Okay, for the other direction, you also have NW here. Then lastly, the number of vehicles that the test car passes while it is traveling west from YY to XX, that is PW. And of course, you also have PE here. Okay, so pag yung nag-overtake sa'yo, yung nilampasan ka, that is OW. Okay, pag naman ikaw yung namampas, that is PW. Okay, and we have our working equations here for the volume, no? Of course, kung ito VE, magbabaligtad lang yung sign conventions mo. Okay? Same here, PE, no, average travel time. Hindi mo siya basta lang i-average yung travel time, okay? So, you have to compute it. Okay? So, here are our working equations. First is the volume in the westbound direction. You could compute it using this equation. And the average travel time, the westbound direction, you can compute it naman using this equation. Okay? Sige, let's try. So sabi, the data in the table were obtained in a travel time study on a section of highway using the moving vehicle technique. Determine the travel time and volume in each direction. So we are required to get yung VE, yung TE, yung VE, yung TE, yung VW, yung TW. So first, let's get yung VW and VE. Okay? So we are given here different data. So let's just define muna bawat isa. Okay? So itong kung nasa taas, okay? So sabi, this is eastward. Okay? Eastward daw yung data sa taas. Meaning, walang beses siyang dumaan. Okay? Walang beses siyang nag-take ng test. Okay? So yung 2.85, that is our TE. Okay? Itong travel time na to, ito naman is TW. Okay? Yung 79.5, is the number of vehicles traveling in opposite direction, that is NE. Then yung 82.5, of course, NW to. Then yung number of vehicles that overtook the test vehicle, that is OE. And of course, this is your OW. Then the number of vehicles overtaken by the test vehicle, this is your PE, and of course, this is your PW. Okay, so going back to the equation, no? So yung VW natin, that is equal to NE plus OW minus PW. Okay? Then times 60, pa-convert lang natin, over TE plus TW. Okay? So, this will give us 79.5 plus 1.25 minus 0.875. Okay, then times 60 over 2.85 plus 3.07. Okay, so this VW is equal to 809.5 or equal to 810 vehicles per hour. Okay, so meaning yung volume mo going westward is approximated 810 vehicles per hour. Okay, so for your VE naman, okay, for your VE, of course, iba yung kabilang values lang yung gagamitin mo. So that is equal to 82.25 plus 1 minus 1.5, okay, then times 60 over 2.85 plus 3.07 plus 3.07. So that is equal to 828.5 or 829 vehicles per hour. Okay? So next, we have to compute for TE and TW. Okay? So for average travel time. Okay? So hindi pa ito yon. Okay? Hindi pa yan yung in-average mo lang. Okay? So yung TE mo, unahin natin ang TW, average travel time. So that is equal to this equation. So TW Okay? So that is TW minus 60 times OW minus PW, okay? Then over PW. Okay, so that is your PW. Okay, so that is 3.07 minus 60 times 1.25 minus 0.875 over the volume, which is volume ng W naught then is ito, 810. Okay? So therefore, our average time westward is 3 minutes. Okay? So the same for average time in eastward. So, babalik na rin lang, ibalik yung kabila lang, yung taas lang na table yung gagamitin natin. Okay? So this is 2.85 minus 60 times 1 minus 1.5 over the volume, which is 829. So this is equal to 2.9 minutes. Okay? So in summary, now if you are traveling eastward, okay, it is expected na hourly rate niya is 810 vehicles na ang travel time is 2.9 minutes. While yung mga going west naman, the average is, yung going east, ang average is 829. Okay? With a travel time of 2.9 minutes. While yung traveling west, the average is 810 vehicles per hour traveling for 3 minutes. Okay? So that is your travel time and delay studies. So kung makikita nyo, it's just direct substitution. Basta alam nyo which of the notations or which values are you going to use for the equations. Okay? So most probably, ganyan lang din lagi yung magiging mga problem natin. Okay? So next is the parking studies. Okay? In areas of high density where space is very expensive, the space provided for automobiles usually has to be divided between that allocated for their movement and allocated for parking them. Providing adequate parking space to meet the demand for parking in the central business district may necessitate the provision of parking bays along the curbs, which reduces the capacity of the streets and may affect the level of service. Okay? Parking studies are therefore used to determine the demand for the supply of parking facilities in an area, the projection of the demand, and the views of various interest groups on how best to solve the problem. So, one of the biggest decisions, if you are one of the decision maker in the road network of the central business district, is how many parking facilities are we going to allocate in for the users. Kasi napakalaki na ng nagagastos natin para sa pag mobilize sa mga ginagamit na kalsada ng mga sasakyan. And gagastos pa tayo ng mas marami para sa parking. Okay? So, merong iba, ang parking, kung ito yung curb and gutter mo, okay, kung yan yung highway mo, meron kang curb and gutter, nag-aalaw sila ng parking dito sa mga tabi. Okay? So, you can see that yung meron tayong mga legal parking na ganyan sa NCR, most specifically sa Makati. Okay? Pero, dito sa Batangas, meron din yan, pero they are actually not designated. Hindi sila designated parking for, they're not legally designated as parking spaces. Kasi ano ba nangyayari? Okay? If you can see, no? Kung ito yung highway mo, kung ito yung highway mo, okay? Initially, each direction is intended for 2 lanes, okay? So, pwede kang 2 lanes na tumatakbo dito. Okay? Ang kaso, nangyayari, mayroong mga sasakyan na pumapark, let's say, dito. So, itong sasakyan na to, hindi ito makakadiretso dito, And kailangan din yung lumipat ng lane. So, ano nangyayari sa section na to? Okay, sa section na to, nagiging one lane na lang yung intended lane mo para sa westward. Okay? So, it speaks a lot kasi anong pwedeng maging repercussions niyan. So, possible magkameron ka ng accident. Ano pa? In theoretical framework, possible na mas haba yung mga travel time and possible rin magkameron ng delays dahil sa mga nakapark. Okay? Kasi yung mga commercial areas around this highway is walang designated parking areas para sa kanila. Okay? So, that is one of the biggest decisions na kailangang pag-isipan ng mga decision makers in managing their road network. Okay? Saan mo ilalagay yung mga sasakyan pag hindi sila gumagalaw? Okay? There are two types of parking facilities. No? First is the on-street parking facilities and the off-street parking facilities. Yung on-street parking facilities, yun na yung na-discuss natin kanina, yung nasa kalsada lang. Okay? Kasi meron tayong mga legally designated parking spot beside the curb and gutter. Okay? These are also known as the curb facilities. Okay? Parking bays are provided alongside the curb on one or both sides of the parking street. These bays can be unrestricted parking facilities if the duration of the parking is unlimited and the parking is free. Or they can be restricted parking facilities if parking is limited to specific times of the day for a maximum duration. Okay, so it depends daw if it is limited or not limited. Okay, yung iba nagpapabayad, yung iba for free lang. Okay, and the other one is the off-street parking. These facilities may be privately or publicly owned. No? They include surface lots and garages. Meron tayo yan. Sa atin sa UB, meron tayong mga off-street parking facilities. Yung tapat ng UB, off-street parking facilities yan. Okay? It is a very wide lot intended to be parking space lang. Okay? Self-parking garages require that drivers park their own automobiles. Okay? While attendant parking garages maintain personnel to park the automobile. So, sa natin to normally nakikita itong attendant parking garages. So, nakikita natin yan sa mga hotel. Okay? Yung mga nagpapavalet park. Okay? So, iiwan mo lang yung sasakyan mo, ibibigay mo yung details ng sasakyan mo dun sa security, and meron na silang staff para sila magdala ng sasakyan mo papunta sa kanilang parking area. Okay? So, some definitions related to parking study. So, first is the space R. It is a unit of parking that defines the use of a single parking space for a period of 1 hour. Parking volume, it's the total number of vehicles that park in a study area during a specific length of time. So, you have space R, you have volume, you have accumulation. Parking accumulation is the number of parked vehicles in a study area at any specified time. This data can be plotted as a curve of parking accumulation against time, which shows the variation of parking accumulation along the accumulation during the day. Okay? So, kung ito yung time mo, x-axis, ito yung parking accumulation mo. So, kung makikita mo, as time increases, tumataas din yung parking accumulation until such a time na magpla-plateau or magpa-flat na yung curve mo. Okay? So, anong meaning nito? Dito sa area na to. So, ang meaning ng area na yan is na-reach na nung parking facility mo ang maximum parking mo. So, wala nang ibang makakapark. Okay? Hindi na siya nadadagdagan at hindi na rin siya nababawasan. Bakit siya hindi nababawasan? Kasi normally, yung mga nagpa-park sa area mo is nagpa-park for a very long time. Okay? Kung bukas yung parking facility mo for 8 hours, mayroong ibang tao or ibang sasakyan na nakapark dun sa parking facility mo for the whole hour. Okay? So, saan normally nagkakamera ng ganon? So, Central Business District kung saan nagtatrabaho yung mga tao. Pumapasok sila sa parking facility mo around, sabihin natin, 7 a.m. and ang labas nila is sa uwian nila, which is somewhere around 6 p.m. Okay? Next is the parking load. It is the area under the accumulation curve between two specific times. It is usually given the number of space hours used during the specified period of time. So let's say we have here T1, ang T1 mo, and you have here T2. Okay? So yung area under this curve, no, itong area na to, yan yung parking load mo. Okay? It is usually given as the number of space hours used during the specified period of time. Okay? Yan yung total space hours mo. So, paano mo yan kukunin? So, mag-i-integrate ka lang dyan in order for you to get the total area of your, the total area under the curve. Okay? Yung boundary mo is T1 to T2. Okay? Next is parking duration. It is the length of time vehicle is parked at the parking bay. Okay, parking turnover, it is the rate of use of a parking space. It is obtained by dividing the parking volume for a specified period by the number of parking spaces. Okay, so methodology of parking study. First is the inventory of existing parking facilities. Next is the collection of data on parking accumulation, parking turnover, and parking duration. So, itong inventory, okay, you have to, again, see first what is the current state of yung paglalagyan mo ng parking facilities or pag-aaralan mo ng parking facilities. Okay? Gaano ba kalaki, gaano kalayo yung different parking facilities from the parking generators natin. Ano yung mga parking generators natin? Yan yung mga nag-a-attract ng end users or ng customers. Pag meron kang customers, magdadala ng sasakyan, so meaning kailangan merong pagtitigilan yung sasakyan mo. Okay? Next is the collection of information on parking demand. Next is the analysis of parking data. Analysis of parking data includes summarizing, coding, and interpreting the data so that the relevant information required for decision making can be obtained. The relevant information includes the following. First is the number and duration for vehicles legally parked. Next is for those illegally parked. Okay? Pero normally, yung ina-analyze lang natin is yung mga legally parked. Okay? Yung illegally parked, we have another analysis for that. Pero it depends on the condition given by the client kung yung illegally parked is pwede natin isama. Okay? Next is the space hour of demand for parking. And lastly is the supply of parking facilities. Okay, so these are the two working equations that we can use in conducting a parking studies. Okay, so first is the space vehicle hours demand for specific period of time, which is yung D natin. Okay, yung N natin dito, yung small n's, the number of vehicles parked for the ith duration range. And yung T is the mid-parking duration of the I-class. Okay? So, later we could make it simpler. Okay? We actually don't have to use especially this kasi by logic naman, makikita na naman natin. Okay? Next is yung S natin, which is the practical number of space or of supply for a specific period of time. Okay? So, yung F natin is efficiency factor. Okay? So, it is a constant lang na you can assume, I think, around 0.85 to 0.9. Okay? Depending on the area at saka ng mga end users. Okay? So, let's try this. The owner of a parking garage located in a central business district has observed that 20% of those wishing to park are turned back every day during the open hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. because of lack of parking spaces. An analysis of data collected at the garage indicates that 60% of those parked are commuters with an average parking duration of 9 hours. And the remaining are shoppers whose average parking duration is 2 hours. If 20% of those who cannot park are commuters and the rest are shoppers, and the total of 200 vehicles currently parked daily in the garage, determine the number of additional spaces required to meet the excess demand. Assumed parking efficiency is 0.9. Okay, so first we have to calculate the space hours and using our equation. Itong to. Okay? So, first, sige, sulat na lang natin. So, D is equal to summation of NT. Okay? Ganyan. So, first, we have to determine kung ilan yung nasa-serve natin. Okay? Yung total space hours na kayang i-serve ng ating parking facilities. Sabi dito, an analysis of data collected at the garage indicates that 60% of those who park are commuters with an average parking duration of 9 hours. Okay? So, ano yung 60% na yun? 60% ng ano? Okay? So, sabi dito, total of 200 vehicles currently parked daily in the garage. So, therefore, our total space are for commuters, no? Sabihin natin for commuters muna. Commuters is equal to 200 times 0.6, 60% daw is commuters who parks for 9 hours. Okay? So, this is equal to 1,080 space hours. Okay? Okay, tama. Next is for the shoppers naman. Okay? Total space hours for the shoppers. Okay? Sabi dito, the remaining 40% are shoppers. Okay? So that is 200 times 0.4. Okay? So gaano katagal sila nagpa-park? Average parking duration is 2 hours. Sabi dito, average parking duration of shoppers is 2 hours. So that is times 2. So that is 160 space hour. 160 space hour. Okay? So next, we have to determine the total number of vehicles that was turned away. Sabi dito, the owner of a parking garage located in a central business district has observed that 20% of those wishing to park are turned back every day during the open hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So meaning, yung 200 vehicles na nakapark sa ating garage daily is only 80% of the total number of users na gustong gumamit ng ating sasakyan, ng ating garage. Okay? So meaning, ang total number of vehicles na gustong magparada is 200 over 0.8. So that is equal to, and then, i-diretso na natin yung total number na nata-turn away natin. So that is 200 over 0.8 minus 200. Okay? So itong 200 yung kaya nating i-serve. Itong 200 over 0.8 yung total number na gustong mag-park sa garage. Okay? So that is equal to 50 vehicles. Okay? So let's analyze naman yung 50 vehicles na to. Sabi dito, if 20% of those who cannot park are commuters and the rest are shoppers, okay, so ilan yung total space hour na hindi natin nasa-serve? Okay, so for commuters na hindi natin nasa-serve, okay, so that is equal to 0.2 times 50, okay, then times ilang hours yung sa commuters, so 9 hours. Okay, 9 hours for the commuters. So this is 0.2 times 50 times 9. So that is 90 space hour. Space hour. Okay? Then for the shoppers naman, okay, na nata-turn away natin, that is 0.8 times 50 then times 2. Okay, 2 hours. So that is equivalent to 80 space hour. Okay, so therefore, our total demand, no? Although hindi naman tinatanong, our total demand is 1,080 plus 160 plus 90 plus 80. So that is equal to 1410. Okay? So, ang required na lang naman natin, no? Okay, ang hindi na lang natin nasa-serve is yung total nitong dalawa. So that is 170 space R. Okay? 170 space R, yun yung total space R na hindi natin na nasa-serve. Okay? So itong ginawa natin na to is actually using this equation. Okay? So itong 170 space R, ito yung hindi natin nasa-serve. Okay? So now, we have to determine kung ilan pang parking spaces ang kailangan natin, okay, in order for us to serve this 170 space R. Okay? So that is actually yung ating S. Practical number of space R of supply for a specific period of time. Okay? So here, S is equal to 170. Okay? So that is equal to F times summation of Ti. Okay? Or summation of T. Okay? So that is just F times T. Okay? Times N. Okay? So this is equal to F times T times N. Okay? Kasi yung T, pare-pareho naman yung time nung N natin. Bawat parking space natin is the same time lang. Okay? So we can simplify it using this formula. So that is equal to 170. Okay? Equals to F. Ano yung F natin? Parking efficiency. So yung parking efficiency natin is 0.9. Okay? So ano yung T? Yung T daw is total length of time in hours when the idle space can be legally parked on. So that is, kailan yun? So that is, sabi dito, open hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So that is equivalent to 10 hours. Okay? Then, times N. Okay? So, we will have here a value of N is equal to 18.89 spaces or equal to 19 parking spaces. Okay, so meaning, no, in order for us to cater for the needs of parking of the remaining 50 customers, no, we need 19 spaces. Okay, yung 50 customers natin na hindi nakaka-park is equivalent to 170 space hours. Okay? With the parking efficiency of 0.9, we need 19 spaces in order for us to cater for that 50 customers. Okay? Are we clear? Okay? So that ends our discussion about traffic engineering studies. Okay? So next week, we will be discussing about level of service. Sige. Thank you for listening and I hope all is well.